Who afraid of egg fried rice? It's the most common dish. Everybody eats egg fried rice. Who afraid? Why are you afraid of egg fried rice? Where your courage? Uncle Roger scared ghosts, but you scare egg fried rice. Where your MSG? You don't use MSG. How to make good egg fried rice? Put MSG in everything. It'll turn it better. You just get a baby, put MSG on baby. You'll be better baby, smarter.
Please note that any childcare advice given on this podcast is uttered in jest. Okay, it's episode 131, I think, and last week we were talking about good old Triskelon. So a homie on Location Redacted showed me that Triskelon thing. I was like, oh, that's pretty dank. Did you ever hear Sokira Peruna or the Raunchus Brothers? I shared those. And he was like, yeah, those are pretty sick. And then he showed me this other band, which this show is going to be about this week. And holy gobbledygook, this band, man, that he showed me, that the show's about to be about, might be my new favorite band, at least for like the next month or so. If you don't remember Sokira Peruna, that was that Ukrainian band I covered way back when, where I had the Western Union and the money to get the album in the mail. And it did come, so they're legit dudes if you end up having to do that. But as I was listening to the song that I sent the guy, I noticed something funky. So there's this song towards the end of the album, and usually the main guy in the band is a vocalist that sounds a little bit like this. You know, deep, sonorous, soulful, Slavic, good vocals. Very recognizable voice. And obviously that album's great. Go back and listen to that episode. But an interesting thing happened later on in that song that I forgot to mention back in that episode. So that was kind of the first verse. The second verse is similar to the first, but not the same. That's a different guy. Definitely way more in the black metal realm. And it fits this kind of weird melodic black metal style that they took with this album in particular compared to their other stuff. But who the hell is that? It's definitely not the same guy that was doing those vocals you heard earlier. In fact, it reminds me a lot of Kinjaz Vargar from Nocturnal Mortem. In fact, I am 95% sure that what we were just listening to was an uncredited vocal cameo from the man himself, which I don't think is outside the realm of possibility, given that the dulcimer player from Nocturnal Mortem was on that Sokira Peruna album, and he had guys from Dubbook and Burstin all over the Ukrainian black metal scene showing up on that RAC record. So I don't know, that's my wacky conspiracy thing this week. No way to confirm it.
우리 동아리 실세는 바로.
Oh, you want me to go get the fucking CD off of the rack over there? You know how long that would take? First of all, I have to bend down to the floor, and I just did squats. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. But anyways, this episode right here is not about Sokira Peruna, although this band is somewhat associated with them, and they have covered one of their songs. This week we're talking about Kiborg. There we go. Classic Kyborg track. What's the matter?
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
Oh, that wasn't Kyborg. That was Streborg.
아니 제가 나이도 제일 많고 연차도 제일 높은데.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Kyborg, actually, like Cyborg, given that the main guy behind this band went by the name Cyborg in a different band. So Kyborg, it's Russian, and the homie sends me a song, starts out a little bit something like this. Kind of death metal-y, suffocation-y almost, also kind of beat down hardcore, very obvious chromatic riff. And, you know, it's likable right off the bat. It's thick sounding, it's nasty, gets you pumped up at the gym. But if you fast forward a little bit into the song, you get to the real good stuff. This kind of very groove-heavy sort of metal with little melodic fills that's very catchy and enjoyable, with some absolutely savage-sounding vocals. All around great stuff. So if you like Sokira Peruna, you're definitely going to be a fan of the sections of the music that sound like this. But then watch what happens right afterwards. It's almost like this kind of weird nu metal-y thing, but in a good way, not a bad one. Wide variety of vocal styles being utilized for epic effect. Clean ones, almost semi-death growls, lots of shouts, plaintive sounding choirs in the background. Great stuff. As soon as I heard that song, I knew I was going to love this band, and I went out of my way to acquire everything from them that I could. And now I'm here to make you aware of how awesome Kyborg is. Each of their albums sounds very different from the last. This one, Pseudo-humanism, is their more black metal-y one, as you can tell from the very obvious black metal shit going on there. But then there's like weird industrial bits like this that actually match up very well with the very thuggish brand of black metal that they are utilizing. So you know, I'm a big fan of that.
Black metal.
Elsewhere on the album, we get some interesting kind of melodic stuff, as well as some chugs that remind me a bit of a lot of the Ukrainian bands, despite the fact these guys are from Russia. They have a bit of a dub book tinge to them, a bit of lucifugium and that very vinegary guitar tone, which you don't really hear outside of this region of the world, and I'm a big fan of it. The songwriting is quite a bit more subtle than you would be led to believe by the fact that they're sort of like a Nat Sock nu metal band at times. But yeah, that's a cool riff. What happens next? Look at this, utilizing harmonics to punctuate very primitive percussive riffs. But then they start weaving this melody into it. Just a lot of different techniques being utilized to make some very interesting and unique sounding riffs. A little bit of thrash right here. He's doing that little two-finger fast hammer-on pull-off thing you might hear in a lot of black thrash stuff like Destruction and whatnot. So yeah, that part. You didn't even hear any vocals. I was just playing you some dank fucking riffs. So that album is pretty great. Pseudo-humanism, if you're a black metal guy, that's the one to start with. But if you want to hear probably their most brutal album, they put out this kind of double album thing called like Marginal Part 1 and 2, where their kind of very industrial, mechanical aspect of their music came to the fore. This song is off of the first Marginal album. It's entitled Nationalistan gegen Drogen, Nationalists Against Drugs, which shows their lyrical topics being very kind of like more hardcore centric. A lot of like social issues and general kind of like personal honor type stuff going on, more so than your sort of typical occult kind of black metal things you might find in a lot of the Slavic bands. And of course it's brutal as fuck. This album in particular is very big on the stop-start riffage. And it works very well with this almost robotic delivery that the vocalist has decided to utilize. And the bass drum is produced exceedingly well, and it locks in with each of those palm mutes perfectly. Little dissonant guitar thing in there in the background. That's probably the closest they ever get to sounding like Triskelon. Speaking of dissonant, weird guitar stuff going on in the background, how about that little ambient riff there? That's pretty great. Great chorus, too. On their Dictatorship album, that's one of their more recent ones, and it's a bit more experimental. It even includes some electronic stuff. So we have shouty Russian guys and a drum machine. Most of you internet nerds out there would probably call this hard bass after all the memes.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
It's actually GABA. It says so on the song. That means it has a very distorted bass, and it's in a very specific tempo range. A lot of Dutch electronic music works in this realm. But instead we have these Russian guys doing it. The only other notable kind of like metal GABA-core collaboration type thing I can think of would be the Berserker from Australia, if anybody remembers that way back then. But this is definitely more melodic than that. Not as grindcore-y. Very folky melody that you could hear on like a Nocturnal Mortem album, but it's being played by these very sparkling, sharp synths. And I like it quite a bit. It reminds me almost a bit of Laibach at times, although these guys are probably on opposite sides of the political spectrum. Perhaps my favorite album that I've heard from them is their most recent one, Rabble, which has a lot of that groove influence, but also is their most folky effort, as you can tell by the synths here. This kind of weird industrial groove folk metal. Haven't really heard anything that sounds too much like this outside of maybe some dub buck tracks. But even then, this is pretty unique stuff. Catchy too. More of the kind of like hip-hop influenced delivery, which normally I would find intolerable, but with Kyborg it actually works very well. I can't find much information at all about these guys. I'm assuming there's multiple vocalists. They sound like different dudes. They're doing a little trade-off here. That's what I mean when I say this is very good lifting music. It's simple, but it has enough subtlety to it going on in the background to where you could listen to this just at home, you know, relaxing. I really like this guy's clean vocals. Like, they're not maybe the most orthodox sounding of like a clean metal vocalist type thing, but I think they have their own tinge to them that makes it very interesting. And that's Kyborg. Hopefully everybody out there enjoyed that. I know that the last 2 weeks have been slight deviations for the kind of stuff I usually cover, but I don't know, I listen to a whole lot of different kind of stuff, and most of it will probably make your ears bleed, but hopefully not Kyborg, because I think they're pretty great. Unfortunately, it's a bit hard to find anything from them. There's like random Google Drives floating around out there with the discography. You might have to get in touch with the band themselves. I don't know if Discogs know that they're wrong thinkers yet, so you might be able to get stuff off of there. But they're good. Give them a listen, and I'll see you next week.
Leave us good review on Google. Don't leave bad review, I'll come find you and hunt you down.